Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to Crimecaster for more gripping true crime stories. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, and feel free to share your thoughts or theories about the Zodiac Killer in the comments below. In the late 1960s, the people of Northern California were gripped by a fear unlike any other. A killer, elusive and cunning, was on the loose, taunting police, the press, and the public with cryptic messages and gruesome crimes. Known only as the Zodiac Killer, this man, or perhaps these men, left behind a trail of terror, beginning with the brutal murders of 2 teenagers in a remote area near Vallejo, California. But what set the Zodiac apart wasn't just the savagery of his crimes. It was his need to control the narrative, to leave behind eerie ciphers, letters, and threats, all while slipping away into the shadows. Who was the Zodiac Killer, and what drove him to terrorize a city, sending chilling messages to newspapers, daring law enforcement to catch him? For decades, his identity has remained a mystery, and yet the case of the Zodiac Killer continues to fascinate, haunt, and baffle the world to this very day. The Zodiac Killer's spree began on December 20th, 1968, when he shot and killed 2 teenagers, Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, on a remote stretch of road near Vallejo, California. Their bodies were found hours later, but no immediate clues linked the killer to the crime. It wasn't until the following summer, on July 4th, 1969, that the Zodiac struck again. This time, he targeted Darlene Ferrin and Michael Mageau in a secluded area near Blue Rock Springs. Darlene was killed instantly, but Michael survived, despite being severely wounded. As he lay in the grass, Michael was able to provide a vague description of the killer, someone wearing dark clothing and driving a car with a distinct look. Yet the description was too general to make any concrete identification. The Zodiac, though, was not content to leave his victims in silence. Just days after the Blue Rock Springs murders, he sent a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle, taunting the police and claiming responsibility for the crime. It was the first of many chilling letters that would come to define the Zodiac's reign of terror. In his letters, he cryptically referenced his crimes, often boasting about the number of victims he had taken, and hinted at future murders. His signature was always a distinct cross-circle symbol, and the Zodiac's messages were often filled with bizarre riddles, revealing his fascination with death and game-playing. But it wasn't just the letters that made the investigation more difficult. It was the lack of evidence. In all of his killings, the Zodiac left behind little to go on. No fingerprints, no physical clues that could conclusively tie him to the crimes. During the Blue Rock Springs attack, he didn't even wear gloves, and his footprints were visible, but they led nowhere. As for the Lake Berryessa murders on September 27th, 1969, where the Zodiac attacked a young couple, Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Ann Shepard, the killer tied them up and stabbed them repeatedly, yet once again left behind little to identify himself. He even drew the cross-circle symbol on Brian's car door before fleeing. Despite the witness accounts and the forensic evidence, such as the car tire impressions found at various crime scenes, no solid leads emerged. The police were forced to rely on the witness testimonies and a few vague physical descriptions, but these were never enough to make an arrest. On top of that, the Zodiac Killer continued to toy with investigators, sending them more cryptic letters. He sent one letter to the San Francisco Chronicle that contained a cipher, the infamous Z340 cipher. The Zodiac told the paper that once it was solved, it would reveal his identity. But frustratingly, the cipher remained unsolved for decades, adding another layer of mystery and tension to the case. With each passing letter and each new cryptic message, the police grew increasingly desperate, and the public's fascination with the case only grew. Investigators were chasing shadows, no suspect, no physical evidence, and seemingly no end in sight. The Zodiac had successfully slipped away from the grasp of law enforcement time and time again, and each failure to catch him only intensified the fear and dread among the public. The police couldn't even be sure if they were chasing one killer or if the Zodiac was a group of people working together. The killer's elusive nature and his ability to stay hidden in plain sight left the authorities scrambling. The case was becoming a game for him, a twisted form of entertainment as he mocked the police at every turn. In the years that followed, multiple theories about the Zodiac's identity were proposed, but none led to a definitive conclusion. One of the most prominent suspects was Arthur Lee Allen, a convicted child molester. He had a history of violent behavior and was connected to some of the Zodiac's crimes, but no physical evidence ever linked him to the murders. Despite this, many investigators still consider him a prime suspect. Others, like Richard Gaikowski, a journalist who resembled the Zodiac's profile, have also been suggested, but no conclusive proof ever emerged to identify him as the killer. Another theory, which gained traction in the 1990s and 2000s, proposed that the Zodiac Killer may have been part of a larger group and that he wasn't working alone. Some speculated that there were other individuals involved, but evidence supporting this idea remains weak. Despite modern DNA testing and recent breakthroughs, the Zodiac's true identity continues to elude authorities. In 2020, the Zodiac's Z340 cipher was finally solved by a team of amateur codebreakers. The decoded message revealed chilling words from the Zodiac himself. "I hope you are having lots of fun in trying to catch me." The revelation that the Zodiac's taunting words were finally understood sent a shiver down the spine of those who had followed the case for decades. But even with the breakthrough, his identity remains a mystery, one that may never be solved. And so, the case of the Zodiac Killer remains one of the most chilling and unsettling unsolved mysteries in American criminal history. With no clear answers, no definitive identity, and no justice for the victims, the Zodiac's legacy endures, leaving us all to ask, who was he? Where is he now? And will the Zodiac Killer remains one of the most chilling and mysterious figures in American criminal history. What do you think happened? Leave your theories in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for more true crime content. Thanks for watching.